Big news in the world of combat sports. Could this be Dana White leaving the UFC? So, Dana White and the company that own the UFC, TKO, have paired up with Ring Magazine, which is owned by Turki Al-Sheikh, to create this boxing league. So let's take a listen to see what this whole league is about.
Ricky Sumpun Pakdi here for The Ring. I'm here with His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, CEO of UFC, Dana White. You guys just signed a massive groundbreaking deal. What's the feeling right now?
I'm excited. You know, I wouldn't be where I am today without boxing. The sport of boxing is where I started. I felt like it was something that could never be fixed until this guy showed up.
And that actually is true. The difference that Turki Al-Sheikh, Riyadh season, Saudi Arabia, whatever you want to call it, has made to the sport of boxing is insane. And as well, in such a short space of time, this guy came into the sport of boxing for the Ngannou Fury fight, I believe. Now, that fight right there was a bit gimmicky, but the rest of the card was actually pretty good, if you remember it. But that was it that kicked it off. And then since then, we've got Daniel Dubois, Anthony Joshua, Bivol Beterbiev twice. Insane. We're getting Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford. The events that this guy's been able to put on, fights that were basically unimaginable, if we're being honest. If Riyadh season, Turki Al-Sheikh, whatever, didn't get into the sport of boxing, we would have never, ever have seen Bivol versus Beterbiev. So this guy has made a very big change in the sport of boxing in a positive way.
He has done more for boxing than any promoter in the history of the sport combined. He has invested more money, more energy, and more passion into this sport than literally ever. So for me to be, I didn't know what to think when we first met. He and I have become very close friends in a very short amount of time, and there aren't a lot of people that I would do a deal like this with. There's no people, actually. He's the only guy, to be honest with you. So what he's done for the sport is incredible, and I'm looking forward to it.
Your Excellency, how are you feeling right now?
First of all, he's not the only CEO now for UFC. He's the CEO of the new company also. Second,
could this be Dana White planning his exit from the UFC genuinely though? Because the guys just went on the board of directors for Meta, Facebook, whatever you want to call it. Now he's the CEO of this boxing company, or this boxing league. Yo, is Dana White preparing his exit from the UFC?
I cannot
Let me know in
do
the comments.
without the support of my Crown Prince. First of all, the King, God bless him, and the Crown Prince, our leader. He supports us in everything. We have, if you want to fix boxing or any sport or doing some big project like this, we will not have any options better than Dana White. And when I see him in this hotel before 1 year, as you remember, with our friend Nick, and we are talking about this, and we go and back, and we have the same vision, and I trust this league in short time will crush everything.
So what should fans expect? You know, there's a lot of speculation on the format, what this might be. What can you give us right now?
There's zero speculation on the format. You know.
Yeah, now, we know this format's going to be based off the UFC. The difference between the sport of MMA and the sport of boxing is the sport of MMA, predominantly all the best fighters fight in the UFC. Now, you do have some exceptions, obviously, but predominantly all the big names, all the best fighters are in the UFC. So that's why they've been able to have that structure for so long. The sport of boxing is so fragmented. I think I've used the right word there. What I mean by that is, Canelo signed to PBC, Anthony Joshua signed to Matchroom. You know, everybody, is Turki Al-Sheikh then buying all the promotional companies? Also, are they buying then all the government bodies? Because how would that work then? You know, if there's going to be one champion at the end of every division, are they just buying the government bodies over the WBC, IBO, IBF, WBA, and just turning it into one belt? Or how is that working?
The format.
They might explain it though. I don't know.
The best fight the best. You work your way up the rankings, and once somebody gets to breaks into the top 5, there's no question who the best 5 guys in the world are in each weight class, and they fight it out. And then once somebody holds that belt, you don't need 3 letters in front of the belt. Whoever has that belt is the best in the world in that weight class. It's a very simple model.
I support him with everything.
It is a simple model, and like it really would do the sport of boxing justice. Like it would make it better, but how do you get the big names to be on board with this? I'm not too sure. Obviously, money will be a factor, and Turkey Al-Sheikh and the Saudis seem to have endless amounts of money. But let's take a listen to this here, or let's read this. So this is a statement that was put out from Ring, TKO, and Sella. I'm guessing that's must be the boxing company. I'm kind of unsure. So Turkey Al-Sheikh says this landmark partnership between industry powerhouses sets the stage for an unparalleled experience for boxing fans. Together we are developing the new generation of talent. Right, so that kind of answers one question. So this is just going to be up like prospects then. So this isn't going to have the likes of Canelo, you know, your big names. That's what I'm getting from this anyway. TKO will serve as a managing partner, providing day-to-day operational expertise, management and oversight of the promotion, with executive leadership anchored by UFC President and CEO Dana White and WWE President and board member Nick Khan. Right. That's interesting. Let's keep reading. So, this is what the new promotion will feature. A highly structured system to develop new talent from around the world. So again, this must just be prospects then. Access to the UFC PI Center. Okay. TKO's production, media and promotional expertise to deliver both in-arena experiences and top-tier state-of-the-art broadcast to fans around the world. That is another thing that the UFC have kind of mastered outside of like their whole structural, like for the fighters, you know, the ranking system, is how to run an event. There is nothing worse than watching a boxing event. You have one fight, then you've got a 6-hour fucking podcast episode, and then you've got another fight. That is so annoying. It needs to be sped up. Boxing events are way too long. They never run on time either, which is so annoying. So at least the UFC will be able to help with that. But it seems to me anyway, like this league is just going to be a league for prospects. And then this is another question I've got then. So say you get to the number 1 ranking in this league. Does that have any standing then on the WBA, WBO, IBF, WBC rankings? Or are the boxers that are dedicated to this league then just fighting for whatever belt this league creates? Does that make sense? You know, if you're number 1 in that league, then does that mean then you're number 1 in the WBC or the IBF? Do you know what I'm saying? Or are those boxers signed to that not going to then fight for that belt? Does that make sense? I think I've explained that well enough, the point I'm trying to get across. Also, what else I'd like to know is, if the UFC are heavily involved in this boxing league, will this then allow UFC fighters to then fight in this league as well? Or is it just going to be, if you're a UFC fighter, you fight in MMA. If you're one of these boxers, you fight in this boxing league? Because that would be interesting, because that could open like the floodgates for so many new and just different matchups, and I think it could give you some really cool matchups, to be honest, some really good events if they were allowing UFC fighters to go over and box. But then again, if they're not signing the big names and they're just having prospects, then it actually wouldn't really make much sense, to be honest. Anyway, I have another video to watch instead of me rambling on here.
I think best sporting event I went to this year, well, technically 2024, was in November at the Garden for John Jones' fight. When do you think we would potentially see him back?
I'm on the wrong thing. Hold up.
People want to see great fights at the end of the day. Boxing has become this thing where, you have to be undefeated for people to care about you, and that's all going to go away. There's a lot of guys out there that we're looking at that are going to be in this roster that have a lot of O's behind there. They're all going to fight each other. And what people want to see are great fights, and they want to know who is the best in the world. And like I said, when you put the great fight, the other thing that we're going to do is my son just went to that show this weekend. He said the live event was terrible. You know, disorganized.
You mean at Barclays?
Yeah. Disorganized, and we're going to clean that up. We're going to make the live events great again, too. The run of show will run faster. You know, it won't take 9 hours to see 4 fights. You know, these guys put on a fight and then have a podcast and then put on another fight and have a podcast. The show will run like UFC does.
What's going to
fight after fight after fight.
Where will people?
People want to see great fights at the end of the day. Boxing has become this.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really clear up some of the questions that I mean, I like the fact that that is a big thing in the sport of boxing that is very different from the sport of MMA. It's kind of like Floyd Mayweather kind of changed this in the sport of boxing, where it's like once you lose your O, like just retire, you're shit, you're washed. Like what just happened to Devin Haney. Obviously, he got his O back because Ryan Garcia tested positive. But even I remember way back when Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz, it was like he lost his undefeated record. Guy's shit, he's washed, retire. Which, you've got the likes of Charles Oliveira is a massive name in the UFC, Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, people like that, and they've got quite a lot of losses on their MMA resume, but are still massive stars, are still some of the best fighters the sport have ever seen. And that's the difference, and it has been like that from the sport of MMA, especially the UFC, really, and the sport of boxing. Is in the UFC, the best always fight the best, unless you're John Jones stuck in Tom Aspinall. Outside of that, you get the fights that need to be made. I am liking that this is going to be, I like the idea of this league, but I do have a couple of questions. One, what does this mean for big names, like the biggest stars in the sport of boxing? Are they in this league or not? And if not, then if this is all just prospects, which again, that there could be fun if it's a load of prospects just put into this league and all these prospects have to work their way up instead of fighting all these fucking journeymen from God knows where in the world that are like 0-64. At least they're getting in there, getting good work against each other. Their records might be like 10-3 or something like that. They might not be like 56-0 and have all fought journeymen until they get to the title. That there could be interesting, but again, what does this mean for all the government bodies? What does this mean if you're ranked number 1 in this league? Does that then have you in good standing for the other government bodies? Or if you're signed to this league, are you just fighting for whatever belt this league has? That is something that I would like to know. But anyway, let me know your opinions. This is very interesting in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Remember, UFC 313 watch along is happening on the channel. Thanks again for all the support, and I'll see you again in the next one.